Hello and welcome to the Knock on KCLR Sports weekly podcasts for Tullow, Carlow and Kilkenny, looking at all things local rugby. Lads, how's it going?
All good, Stephen. Thank you.
Great, Stephen. Couldn't be any better.
Good stuff. Well, we had a bit, yeah, absolutely. We had a bit of a better weekend for two clubs anyway. The last couple of weeks has been a tough out start to the season for Carlow, Kilkenny and Tullow. Couple of losses, discipline issues, and more besides. But we had the big derby at the weekend. It always is a tasty game and one that we look forward to as well. But as it turned out, it was close enough in the end, both for the firsts and the seconds. But Tullow coming out on top in both games, Paddy. Happy with that?
Absolutely. And as we spoke last week about it often takes this local derby to bring out the best in both clubs. And that certainly is the case with us. Even more so with the seconds than the first, because our seconds had been really struggling and didn't field on one occasion. So we got out quite a strong team and Carlow seconds were flying, so that was even a bigger surprise than the first to a point. But I'll come back to the seconds in a minute. I suppose we should start with the first. But both games were tight games. The first was a very high-scoring game and lots of tries, but both crackers by all accounts. So just the team sheet on the first there with full-back Darragh Cosgrave, three-quarters Will Bryan, Jack Hanlon, Adam Johnson, Tyg Walsh. Number 10, our New Zealander Ryan Jordan and Gareth Fitzgerald. The front row, Scott Callback, Corey Lee Hughes, who's actually leaving the club after a few successful seasons and winning 2 Towns Cup medals. He's heading off to play his trade in Canada, so the best of luck to him. Tom Cashin is the other prop. Second row, Martin Cole and Joe Waters. And the back row, Jack McDonald, Fiacla Byrne and Stevie Smith. And the subs were Philip Byrne, Tyg McCarthy-Griffin, Kavanagh, Brian Keogh and Ryan O'Neill. So it was the game started quite well from a Tullow perspective. Adam Johnson scored a penalty after 3 minutes, and Joe Waters scored a try after 7, and Gareth Fitzgerald after 9. So after 9 minutes, the score was 17-0, and Tullow looked to be going very well at that stage. But Carlow came right back into it and scored 2 tries. Ryan Jordan got an additional try, so the score at half time was 24-12. Now, just before half time, there was yellow cards for Tullow's Joe Waters and for Carlow's Evan Gordon, and that disrupted things a little bit. On the 44th minute, soon after half-time, Stevie Smith got a try. The score then was 31-12, and really it looked an uphill struggle for Carlow, but to their eternal credit, they came right back into it and made it a very close, squeaky bum game in the end for Tullow. Jonathan Crossley got a try, and later on, Conor Tracy got his second try. So Tullow were trying to maintain the 8-point margin and were taking long-range penalties, and Darragh Cosgrave kicked a long-range penalty and Adam Johnson kicked another penalty to bring the score to Tullow up to 37. But it was Carlow were attacking towards the end and eventually got a try, but it meant that Carlow got 2 bonus points as well, which was a reasonable return given where the match had been at certain times. So yeah, it was from our point of view in Tullow, it was a very welcome return to winning ways after a very poor start to the season. And, as it's happened many the time before, these local derbies do turn a season for Carlow and Tullow, and I'm sure it applies to Kilkenny and to teams like that as well. So, and I think Athy had a very good win over Wicklow, which also throws open the placings in the second half of the table. So, yeah, it's starting to get interesting now, absolutely. Our seconds, who had been going very badly, got out quite a very strong team by Tullow standards this season. I just name it quickly there: Paul Canavan, Pookie back at full back, Maurice Logue Jr., Jay Leonard, Jack Johnson and Ryan O'Neill, Peter Burgess out half and Sean Nolan scrum half, Pat Hickey, Shane Murphy, Jack Fitzgerald, Tom Hughes, Dylan Thomas, Cathal Bailey, Tyan Smith and Jay Leonard. And the subs were Cian Leonard, Des McDonald, Peter Byrne, Patrick Byrne, Billy Lawler and Davy Tobin. So like the team, like we said about the women last week, was a very good mixture of experience and youth. And there was a few Towns Cup medal winners in there, which the experience they brought was obviously invaluable. So the 15-12 result in the end, it was 5-5 at half time. Jay Leonard had scored a try, which was unconverted. In the second half, then Jack Johnson had a penalty, and the try that won it, we were behind at this stage. We were 8-12 down, and Tom Hughes, a very young player of 19 years of age, come in and got a winning try, converted by Pookie Canavan. But anybody that was there said it was a real cracker of a match, and a surprise result, I would say, given where we had been. The matches next weekend for both teams. Another bit of history for Tullow, because they're playing in the All-Ireland Junior Cup next Saturday against Craigs, who come over, and the earlier kickoff now of 2:30. And there's an interesting coincidence between Tullow and Craigs in that both are sponsored by Murray Timbers, because the home of Murray Timbers is over near Craigs, and they have the place in Ballin, and that's how they end up sponsoring Tullow. So that's a nice coincidence to have. And another coincidence, they both share the same colours, the maroon and white, which you might see behind me there. I'm sporting a maroon and white cushion here for the day that's in it. But so Tullow, I think, have to change colours next week. So that's the story on the men's side. The women didn't have it so well. The first went down 26-10 to Ballincollig, and the second lost 32-19 to Barnhall. It was a bit of an achievement for the women, because we spoke before about getting a seconds team out, and this was the first weekend that both teams had to play together. So it was a fair stretch on resources, but they got two reasonably strong teams out. The women's team, just to name it there, was Roisin O'Toole, Chloe Walsh, Chloe Farrell, Alex O'Brien and Jacinta Byrne. Number 10, Aoife McGrath, and scrum half Alice Carroll. Front row, Nicola Kilcoyne, Anna O'Neill and Anne-Marie Meany. Second row, Carla Clonley and Orla Hanlon. And the back row, Emer Byrne, Leanne Brennan and Grace Kelly. Subs, Joanna Mahan, Leanne Savage, Niamh Ryan and Aoife Byrne. The difference was really their winger. She scored 3 tries and 2 of which were just one side of each side of half time, and she was a brilliant finisher, and she was the difference to a point. I think the Tullow forwards fronted up very well. Aoife Kelly got 2 unconverted tries, that was that. Niamh Crotty was a super player, and she certainly seemed to be the difference. So the final score there was 26-10. The seconds then played on Sunday and against a strong Barnhall side, and went down 19-32. I mentioned Joe Walters heading off with the Mellon Foundation last weekend. I mentioned on last week's podcast. Alex O'Brien, who is a leading light on our women's team, is doing something similar and heading down to South Africa. And she needs to raise 4,500. She's with the Niall Mellon Foundation again, and they're building 18 classrooms as part of a project down there that she has been involved in for the last 2 years. So the best of luck to Alex, and fair play to her for that. So that's the adults. On the underage side, big wins for most of the teams, and one loss to Carlow. So the under 13 boys won 60-5 at home to Dundalk. The under 14 boys won 57-15 at home to Longford. The under 15 boys beat Kilkenny away 19-0, and the under 16 boys beat Kilkenny away 31-11. The under 18 boys went down 12-6 to Carlow, and the under 18 alternative boys lost 37-7 to Naas. So a reasonable 4 out of 5 there for the boys. The under 14 girls had no match, and the under 16 girls was postponed due to the storm, and the under 18 girls had lost 37-7. Or the under 18 girls beat Navan 31-28, and Tom can say some more about that. He knows more about it than I do. So a reasonable return for the club at both senior and junior level, and looking forward to a new experience next week, playing a Connacht team in the All-Ireland Junior League. So that's it, Stephen from Tullow.
Good stuff. Paddy, Tom, you were on the other side of that, of course. 2 sort of narrow losses as well. What's the feeling from the Carlow point of view?
Right. Excuse me. We'll start with the seniors. We're going to name out the team was Larry McGrath, Evan Gordon, Ross Byrne, Wesley Shirley, John Lyons captain, Johnny Murphy, Joel Browne, Conor Tracy, Alan Owens, Dan Crotty, Ben Crotty, Ian Atkinson, Sean Quinlan, Jonathan Crosley, Will Casey. Then the bench then was strong bench of Scott Nia, Keelan Fitzhenry, Tyrone and Patrick Mackey and Peter Hennessy. Look, I think Paddy went through all the scores and that, so I won't bother going back through who scored what. From a Carlow point of view, I think the first issue really was the start that we got. I think we're very, very off tempo coming out of the dressing room and starting the game. Didn't get stuck in as we should have got stuck in the first couple of minutes, and we paid the price and going 17. Like, to go 17-0 down is, to any team, is a massive score, and it just shows like a poor start. We've noticed this year, look, stepping up a division, we were having a chat with someone after the game, and we were talking about the difference of one of the players. We were just having a chat about the difference between, like, what is actually the key difference, because we know, like, the physicality and so on. But the one main point that kind of sums the whole lot out is you can't afford mistakes in Division 1A because you get punished. And it's plain and simple. If you make mistakes, and we had too many mistakes in the first while, too many penalties, our penalty count was poor, too many handling errors, all those small details we got punished with. And in fairness, Tullow came out of the dressing room and were fired and went straight into fifth gear. We came out and probably started in third gear. So we have to look at that and see where we're going with their build up into the game and build up and when we arrive on the pitch, the way we're focused and how we start games. Some very positives out of the game. We had some really superb tries. Our lineup was very good. Our scrum was solid. So we had all the bases of, there's other games you could come in, if you're beaten in, if you can stand and say, oh God, we're beaten in the lineup, we're beaten in scrum, but we weren't beaten in set piece. We were quite dominant in the end lineup. We won one or two Tullow balls, and so they're not there. They're all on the positive end of it. And look, I have to say hats off to the lads. They fought back. From being down, they fought back every time we made them narrow. Whatever we scored, Tullow scored. We came back, and the final try, to get a try and get the 2 bonus points was massive for us. And look, I complimented the lads last night. It was the one thing that I had to say to them, was that no matter what, it's the first time this season I've seen with a bit of belief that, towards the end of a game, that was a fight there at the end. Maybe if we had to fight the whole way through, might have been a different result. But I keep saying there's a lot of, all those things are fixable. When you have your set piece was quite good, as I said, your set piece was quite good. Some of our back play was very good. I have to compliment young Alan Owens, came in this week at 9. As I said, we've been missing Noah Cope, which has been a disaster because we hadn't a straightforward replacement in as 9 for him. But young Alan Owens has come back this season. He kind of had a rough year last year and took a bit of time out, but has come back fired up and had a really, really good game for his first game back. His passing was superb. Like all things, a little bit rusty, but those little bits will, that'll fade away as he gets more game time. As I said, it was a really, really good performance. Connor Tracy had a great game. Dan Crotty at 10. His defence was superb. He put in some massive tackles and some good attack play as well. Ian Atkinson came in. Now, Ian mightn't sit into every format that you're with the plays, that the set plays that you're doing off backs, but his with the ball in hand and he's off the cuff stuff, and he's even his defence had a really, really good game in the centre. Young Johnny Crosby got tries. Will Casey, young Australian that came over just for a year, who's just came over through the relationship with a club that we had years ago. His dad rang Ryan said we wanted a bit of time away. Would we be interested? Would we take him in if he came over? And we were delighted. Will had a fantastic game and gave an amazing offloading pass for a try for Ben's try in the corner. Super, or was it Ben or Johnny? Can't remember which one scored, but it was a superb off the cuff play again. Just little out the back pass. Super stuff from Will. So there was a lot of positives. Scott Neal has another mention. Scott Neal came off the bench and had a superb game. Came in hooking, and Scott had just added a bit of dynamism to the play on the pitch, and again his defence was super. So look, very disappointed, yes, but also positive in some of the things that happened towards in the second half. So look, we'll take the positive. You can't keep hitting negatives in any team. You have to. The lads know. They always know what they do wrong, and their heads were down because nobody likes to lose a game, and especially a derby. But we'll take the positives out of that game. For a team that were, had 2 losses at the weekend. We had 30 lads training, 30-something lads training last night, and that's including, giving guys breaks, rest because they had a tough weekend. But there's a positivity still there, and a willing to learn and to move on. So look. From a first point of view, we'll move on, and I will talk next week then about the preparation for a tie. Our second had a boo-boo in the run. They were playing very well lately, but come up against a strong Tullow side and had a it was a very, very good game to both sides, have to say. Tough, hard-fought battle. We had a good first half. Coming into the second half to start off right, and then we imploded. Something which we have to deal with. The players have to deal themselves. A lot of errors and just not supporting each other. And look, we're probably very disappointed in that result because they had been playing so well, and the second half definitely wasn't a performance that they had. The way they've been playing in other matches, that second half performance definitely let them down. But look, they're a good side. There's plenty of players coming. There's plenty of fighting for places. There's as I said, a lot of competition in places for that seconds team. A lot of competition. I'm sure there'll be changes probably again for the first team going into a tie, but. The lads will just have to, as I say, get back up on the horse in 2 weeks' time and face a stronger tie team. I'll just go through the team there. The seconds was Dara Brennan, John Farrell, Mark Sly, Thomas Atkinson, Oisin Hart, Thomas Whitney, Rhys Edgehill, Danny Carpenter, Josh Cope, Liam Slater, Rory Dunbar, Fikra Fitzpatrick, Sasha Ramett, Ben Deacon and Willie Kelly. The subs then were Dermot Long, Martin Mullins, Matthew Keogh, Andrew Hanbridge, Brian Broderick, James Browne and Mark Tracy. There was a couple of good performances in that too. It was great to see Fikra Fitzpatrick. The hurler hasn't played in a couple of years. Fikra's just out of hurling for a little while this season and has decided to come back and stay fit and come up and play with us. So we're delighted to have Fikra back. Rhys Edgehill had a good game, and Dara Brennan is having a solid season. On that, Willie Kelly probably played quite well at fullback. But look, we'll get back on the saddle with those. We wouldn't be too worried about going forward. The seconds is a tight league. So Wicklow beat a tie Wicklow beat a tie seconds in a tie, and they would have been as a strong a tie side, So the seconds league, I think, will be kind of has opened up a good bit now. So look, the lads will just have to get back on the horse. That's the end of the seniors. Done and dusted. Move on from Tullow. We'll look forward to 2 weeks' time. From a youth point of view, our under-18s had a good win, 12-6 win, over Tullow. That was actually, I watched that game Friday night, and compliments to both sides. It wasn't champagne rugby, but the passion from both sides. playing. You know, that was a real derby. It was up and down the field. There was massive tackles put in. The defence from both sides was superb. As I said, like it wasn't champagne rugby, but it was a really, really good game to watch. So, compliments to our own lads for winning, which is great at any stage, and a commiseration to Tullow. But I have to say, hats off to them too, because they fought all the way right to the very end. As I said, like it was a tough match, and there was a lot of sore bodies after that one. Around the 16s was cancelled. Around 15s had a good win over Dundalk, 43-28. Around the 14s had a good win over North Kildare, 38-15. Our under 13s beat Naas 24-19. I'll just give a little rundown on them this week. It was led by captain Sergio Capan. It was a first try from Fionn Kelly, made it 7-0. Then Sean Comerford got in for a try, 14-0. Killian Pender got in for another try. Then it was 19-0 with 24 minutes gone. And Jane Kellery got it in then for another try. It was 24-0. Then the second half, Naas had 3 unanswered tries, which I'm sure the coaches won't be too happy with. Okay. And that brought it up to 24-19. But the lads held on to the final whistle. Other players of note was Connor Cantwell and Adam Clark, and Donna Murphy made a great impact off the bench. So that was them. I'll just give a quick one on the under 18 Rhinos, Paddy, against Navan. They had a massive win up there. They were 14. Navan led 14-5 in the first half, with Grace Dillon getting in for a try. Then they were down 28-12, and they came back. And the final score was 31-28. Those girls, just have to say, they really don't know how to lose. They came back and really pushed so hard to come back. Because I actually thought they'd lost when I saw the score. I wasn't at the game, and I was keeping an eye on the text. And at one stage, I saw the score, and I was going, "Oh God!" And the line. Then I didn't see it till afterwards. One of the girls came up and said, they won." So, look, hats off to those. There was they're a fantastic team, and was Hannah Kelly had an awesome game, and Megan Doyle had another one, had a fantastic game. But look, they're a brilliant side. They're playing Gorey at the weekend. They're playing in Carlow on Friday night at 7:45. If anybody wants to come over, they're playing Gorey in the southeast, and we're really, really, really looking forward to that one. Just a couple of mentions before I finish off. I'd say congratulations to Stephen Smith, an ex-Carlow mini, who got his first cap against Connacht, and James Keogh played in the Leinster YSP game against Gonzaga, which they won. Our ladies are out in Gorey at 1 o'clock on Sunday the 20th. It's a Sunday at 1 p.m. down in Gorey. And just have to say thanks to Netwatch, who have been staunch supporters of the club for the last number of years and who have agreed to continue supporting us, again, sponsorship for this season going forward. And lastly, there was an outrun for Hunger 5K run came out that was organised in the club, not by the club, but we have to say compliments to whoever. It was fantastic. It was a native, I think, St. Felix, and the dinners and that. But they had a massive crowd up there, and it was really, really, I was told that it was really, really organised. So congratulations to those who organised that outrun Hunger 5K in the club. That's all from me.
Good stuff, Tom. Yeah, it is a busy one. Great to see Stevie guys. First cap there last weekend as well. Didn't be too bad either. James Blanchfield, you're back on the ladder again. A win over Byrne. You were a bit worried about this one last week because they're a bit of a banana skin for you, but you got the job done. The first anyway.
Excuse me. Yeah, apologies. I'm eating a dinner and drinking a pint here at the same time at the airport. So, look, we got the job done. I'll come on to it in a minute, but I thought I'd just do a quick rundown on last week's results first, and then I'll get on to that. But yeah, starting off with under 18 girls last Friday night, they played the Wolves in Clane. last Friday night. I think it was 8 o'clock kickoff. The Wolves is a combination team of Clay, North Kildare, Clondalkin and Newbridge. Kind of surprising that kind of some of those clubs, North Kildare maybe and Newbridge, don't have their own under 18 teams yet, but they're probably early in their project. So it was great just to see them playing in the first place and getting game time. Our girls are having a tough time of it under 18, but I think one of the ways that you measure team spirit is that how they react to losing, and they always come back. They always come back training. They always want to come back training. So well done to Peter Hart and Mary Louise Bryody and Ed Mulrooney coaching those girls. They're a resilient bunch. As Paddy said, our under 15 boys lost to Tullow. Our under 16 girls had a very strong win over Clontarf. Our under 16 boys also lost to Tullow. Our women's 15, their tough run continued with an away loss to Greystones on scoreline 39 points to 12. Our J2s had a narrow defeat against a narrow loss to Byrne on 22 points to 17, and our first 15, Stephen, as you said, who will jump onto now, had a good 20 to 17 point win over Byrne. Scoreline probably doesn't reflect the dominance we had on the game, taking into consideration that Byrne got a length of the field intercept try where we could have been going over the whitewash ourselves. So it probably was a little bit of a buffer there for them, but we started with a really strong team, and I'll just go through it now. Front row is the settled front row of Brian Howe, Ben Devlin and Josh Evans. In the second row, again, the second settled front row of Andrew Warner and Jake Hallbeck, who are kind of putting together they're putting together a good partnership between them, and they have a very good dynamic. Jake does his line out work, Andrew does the donkey work, and they're going very well between them. And I mean donkey work in the best respect to Andrew. In the back row, we had Dave O'Connor at number 8, Gary Dunn at open side, and Jason Connolly at blind side. Just really need to mention Jason. He was back for his first game of rugby in 4 seasons. Jason gave up 4 years ago through concussion, and he went off and did a little bit of living, and he got signed off by the doctor about a month ago to come back playing some ball. Jason's a kind of a past player of the year with the club as well, so we're thrilled to have him back in, and suddenly now we have an awful lot more depth in our back row because of that. Back line was Steve Atkinson, Dan O'Neill, Joe Manuel and Podge Mahan back in the centres together, and I think that was probably the winning of the game for us, was getting 2 natural centres back in the centre playing together. Defensive wise and attacking wise, the lads were just super, really, really good. Joe Manuel probably, in my mind, had one of the best games he's ever had for Kilkenny, and I think he probably had a little point to prove as well that he wanted to be back out there in the midfield. The back 3 was Dan Dowling and Jeff Power on the wings, and young Jack Campion was in for his first start with Kilkenny at adult level at full back. Jack is a past minis player and then played his schools rugby with the club. Played his schools rugby with Kilkenny College, and is back now after a lot of kind of discussion about where he'd be going. We're delighted to see him back in a Kilkenny jersey for this year, and great for Jack that he actually got the win and try as well. On the bench, we had Dan Dowling, Liam McWay, Charlie Buckley, Jay Lahey, Joe Connolly and Aaron Askins. And just to mention, Joe Connolly was in for his first inclusion in the first 15, in the first squad of his time playing rugby. And I'm in no doubt, having brought Joe through youth rugby, that we're going to see an awful lot more of him in our J1 squad. Try scorers were Jason Connolly, got a first try of the game on his first start back in 4 years. But then Byrne ran into a 17-5 lead. As I said, I mentioned a minute ago, some of that was through an intercept, length of the field try. But then tries were followed up by Gary Dunn, Jack Campion and Dan O'Neill added 5 points in place balls to take the win. So first and foremost, we're delighted with the win. That's just all we wanted. We didn't want the performance came second. The win was number 1, and luckily both came, but it was an atrocious day for rugby. Gale force breeze running down the middle of the pitch, straight down the pitch, so it made it quite kicking for one team very hard for 40 minutes and then for the opposite team for 40 minutes. But our scrum was good, our attack play was good, all things considered. As I mentioned, Joe Manuel and Podge Mahan had a really good game, and our forwards really fronted up and did the business. So we're thrilled to come away with the win from that, and it gets us going a little. Second win of the season. We're up to 8 points in the league, but we are a little bit disappointed to leave the bonus point bonus point behind us. But as I said, the win, we can't get greedy. The win is the number one. The number one target, but as I said, stability was offered by the two lads in midfield, and it was great just to see them helping us get back to winning ways. Apologies about background noise here now, if you're picking it up. Seconds were narrowly beat on a scoreline of 22-17. They did go 12 points to 0 down, and then got it back to a Liam Phelan try, got it back to 12 points to 7, and that was the half-time score. But we dominated the first half, and we just didn't turn it into points. We didn't turn it into dominance on the board, and the lads will be disappointed about that. But in the first half, but we started poorly in the second half. But through the exchanges anyway, Caleb Hogan-Eyre scored a try. Alex Reynolds got our last score, but just wasn't enough to take the win. And Boyne took that win 22 points to 17. The lads are disappointed that they really scuppered a couple of good try scoring opportunities, but standout performers on the day there were Liam Phelan, Kieran Conway, Colin Keeley, Caleb Hogan-Eyre, and Tommy Murphy, who was in his first season with the club. He's a guard in Kilkenny, and he's after joining us from Feathered. So Tommy is very, very kind of an exciting player. As time goes by and he gets a little bit more settled into our systems and game plans, he could be somebody that could be kind of filtering himself into the first 15 panel, or the first squad at least. As I said, our women's had a very tough journey, loss on the road away to Greystones. Started with quite a settled team. Maureen Conacur in the front row, Jenny Kerwin and Alice Brennan. Lorna McMahon and Alice Murphy in the second row, and a back row of Kira Whelan-Fox, Lika Hoban at number 8, and Tina Wright at open side. Very balanced back row. There, Kira Whelan-Fox comes with a lot of pedigree. Her mum's family are steeped in Sunday as well, and her father would have played a lot of rugby with us. So she's one to watch for the future for us. She's still only young. I think she's only 19 or 20. In the backs, we had Anita Ledger at out scrum half, and Megan Callahan, our team captain, at 10. Emily Kenny and Eve Cronin in the centres. And the back three was Rach Brickle at full back, Ella Carroll on one wing, and Kate O'Neill on the other wing. Just need to mention Kate O'Neill. She's new to rugby. Her mum and dad brought her in just last year. She's from Castlecomer, and everyone is delighted with her progress and how well she's coming on, and she's steadfast there in the left wing for the women. So, but as I said, it was a game played in really, really poor conditions, and we were 10-0 down after 7 or 8 minutes. Kira Whelan-Fox got a try to bring it back to 10 points to 7. But Greystones responded immediately with 2 tries. And then early in the second half, they got 2 further tries and a Kilkenny yellow card. So that brought the score line up to 25 points to 7. And then further, Greystones scores brought it to 35 points to 7. But the grit and determination, Lika Hoban got them over for a consolation try to leave the final score 35 points to 12. It was a game for the forwards by all accounts. But our women are on a very tough run of it at the moment in the league. They had a couple of good pre-season warm-up games that they won, but maybe it might be time now just to look at game plan, or maybe try simplify things, or just adjust things slightly on game plan. It's tough to kind of go with 3 or 4 losses on the bounce in the league, but look, there's no doubt that they're a good bunch of women. They'll bounce back, and they'll kind of pick those locks and kind of solve the problems that they have. Moving on to kind of other things, our sponsor of the week is Langton's of John Street. Look, they've been a club sponsor for nearly 30 years. They do all of our catering for home matches and any kind of club pre-match dinners and stuff we have. So we're very thankful to Langton's for everything that they do for us. Last week, we made a big concerted effort across the club for the Respect Our Game that was being observed last weekend. Was Respect Our Game awareness weekend. So thank you to all of the teams and supporters, parents, players, referees, coaches, everyone who observed that with great respect. Our player profile of the week, we have 2 player profiles this week actually. The first one is from Josh Evans. Josh is a new player with the club. It's important to kind of introduce him, we feel. He's originally from Mitchelstown in County Cork. He's come to work and live in Kilkenny because he's come to work as a finance partner with Tier Lawn. He's in his first season with the club, having previously played with his home club Mitchelstown, where he won a couple of Munster Division 2 and Division 3 leagues, and played a couple of seasons with Cashel also, but joined us this year. And it's funny, kind of, he continues a long tradition of Cork people coming and doing well in Kilkenny over the years. in the last few years, we've had kind of Shane O'Riordan, Joe Moynihan, and back through the years, we've had Mick O'Donovan and many others who've come up from Cork to play with the club and have found a home in the club. Second player profile is Caoimhe McGuinness from our women's 15. Caoimhe's from Balafoyle. She's a 23-year-old school teacher. She plays tight head, and in her own words, she absolutely loves scrummaging and getting pushover tries. And so, in fact, member profile, just an important one for us is Mick O'Donovan. Mick is originally from Glandore, County Cork. Came to Kilkenny in 1978 in Bank of Ireland, and he is now probably one of the mainstays of Kilkenny rugby. Mick was received the honorary membership of the club in 2023. Retired from Bank of Ireland now, but he's a shareholder in West Cork Whisky, West Cork Distillery, and he's a very, very important club member, and things he's done for the club over the years went unnoticed or went untold. But he, in no doubt, is one of the reasons that the gates of Fookstown are still open. Important one that I feel is to look at is the Southeast Under-16s played Kilkenny College last, and I think this is something that applies to Tullow and Carlow and Kilkenny. Southeast Under-16s played Kilkenny College last Wednesday night in the club, or in the school. There was 10 Kilkenny players involved between the school and the club, and the Southeast was also coached by our own Gary Corcoran. But I think it's really important to mention the importance that Kilkenny College plays to all three of our clubs, and the players that kind of come through minis and then go off to the school and come back to our clubs in the long term. You know, they might be with the club through youth, but I think we all do very, very well at the back end out of Kilkenny College. And currently our first 15 has about 10 players involved from the college, and that's kind of Andrew Warner, Jake Callbeck, Dan O'Neill, Podge Mahan, Jeff Power, Jack Campion, Charlie Buckley, Aaron Askins, Wes Carter, and more. So I know Carlow have done very well out of the school as well, and I just think it'd be remiss of us not to mention the importance that the college is to Southeast rugby, particularly in Carlow and Kilkenny. Moving forward, we have a fancy dress this Saturday night in the club. Our under 7s, 8s, 9s, and 12s, our minis had a very good outing on Sunday morning. Our under 11s and 12s were supposed to have a blitz in Wexford. That was called off because of the bad weather, but they trained anyway. Our under 10 and 12 girls welcomed Tullow down to Kilkenny. They had a great couple of competitive games, and thanks to George Marr and Frankie Hughes for arranging those. It's great to see the buzz that minis brings to the club every Sunday morning, and parents and getting new people involved. On that front, I think that's it. Our women are play Tala on Friday night in the club. So that would be a game for people to come out on the bank holiday weekend. But aside from that, I think that is the party political broadcast from Kilkenny RFC.
Good stuff. Thanks for that, lads.
We had a visitor there, Stephen.
Yeah, I figured that. She escaped. And that's a guest on the podcast. Lads, I suppose before we wrap up, just your thoughts. Anyone seen the Irish squad? We're recording this, folks, on a Wednesday the 23rd, so it's just been released. Anyone have a look at it?
No.
I'll call it out to you there now. Just give me 2 seconds and I'll get it. I can have a chat about it then. So there's a couple of new faces on it anyway. Give me 2 seconds now. So the forwards wise, you've got Ryan Baird, Finlay Beelum, Tyg Byrne, Caelan Doris is the captain, Tyg Furlong, Cian Healy, Dave Heffernan, Ian Henderson, Rob Herring, Cormac Izawuchu, Ronan Kelleher, Joe McCarthy, Peter O'Mahony, Tom O'Toole, Andrew Porter, Cian Prendergast, James Ryan, Nick Timoney, and Josh van der Fleer. Your backs are Bundy Aki, Craig Casey, Jack Crowley, Kieran Frawley, Jameson Gibson Park, Mac Hansen is back, Robbie Henshaw, Hugo Keenan, James Lowe, Stuart McCluskey, Conor Murray, Calvin Nash, Jamie Osborne, Sam Prendergast is in there in the main squad, Gary Ringrose and Jacob Stockdale, and have brought in 5 players as training panelists. So that's Thomas Clarkson, Alex Kendellen, Shane Bolton, Jack Boyle, and Gus McCarthy. So there you are. Sort of good old squad, but as you'd expect, I suppose.
it's a good squad, but I'd be questioning. I'd be like the inclusion of the Ronan Kelleher at this point in time. Like he's been injured for the last number of weeks. I don't think there's any point in carrying him if he's injured. Bring someone in. Now is the time to blood somebody. But then the hooker reserves are so low at the moment. I think there's 3-4 injuries, and Rob Herring has been injured as well. So it's likely that Dave Heffernan will probably be the starting hooker there for the All Blacks game anyway.
Yeah.
Good going for the two sets of brothers as well. The two Prendergast brothers, great going for them, and the two McCarthy brothers, like Gus, is in the additional numbers there. So it's fantastic to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other observations there, Tom?
No, I'm glad to see Cormac and I'm going to go and pronounce it Njuku. Coming in there. I think he's a phenomenal athlete.
He's a Tullamore man, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Good, great for Tullamore because they haven't produced someone at that level in some time,
Yeah. No, I think the backline's good. There's no one that doesn't deserve to be there. Other years we've had issues with difference, but look, it's great to see. There's not one player there that doesn't deserve their place. We would have had doubts before, maybe the out half, what's any name, but at out half. But now, to me, there's 3 very good potential out halves in there.
Yeah,
and there'll be a lot of competition between Jack Crowley and Kieran Frawley, and I hope Kieran Frawley. I presume Kieran Frawley's injury was more coming off the field against Connacht was more precaution than anything else.
Oh yeah, they cleared him during the week.
Yeah, because I presume if he had given any niggle at all, he was going to be any player on that squad would be taken off. But it's nice to see that competition. Even though I said Jack Crowley gave 2 intercept passes, and not just 2 intercept passes, but 2 intercept passes for tries at the weekend.
Yeah,
Jesus, it was shocking because
that was one of the worst Munster performances I've ever seen. Though chronic.
It was just like I don't understand why you have a rush defense coming up, and twice it was like they just went to shovel ball along, and a pass was thrown for the sake of passing, and it was intercepted. Very poor. I'd actually be honest. Of the 3 provinces at the moment, I can see development in huge development up in Ulster. I see development in Connacht that mightn't have necessarily have the players or the depth of squad to compete against the Leinsters of this world. But the one team this year, I definitely would be very worried, and I don't know what's going on down there with the Munster because they're not the same. They don't seem to be. There's not it doesn't seem they're not really a team, to be honest. That's kind of hard to describe what way. There's something wrong. Yeah. There's definitely something wrong in the Munster setup, and people said even after the Leinster game, that round 3 was being left, wasn't engaging with the players, and wasn't engaging the way. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. Your coach will always be engaged and engaged in the pitch, but was very kind of almost isolated. So I don't know what's going on down there. But it's not good for your rugby, and they keep saying that you have to have. We need all 4 provinces performing.
Yeah.
If we're ever going to win a World Cup or we're going to continue our development, we can't just rely on Leinster to keep going and keep producing players. And look, I know that everybody says there's a train of young lads coming through, but someday that could stop. And we need all the rest of them to play. And you need competition.
Absolutely.
You can't just have competition in the one province. It's hard enough for lads to get on a Leinster team. But then are they getting a chance to really, look how long it's taken the likes of Frawley to come through as a 10. I don't know. It's me.
I think there's a little bit of Leinster bureaucracy, and don't get me up wrong on that, but a little bit of Leinster bureaucracy there that he was being held out there by 2 or 3 others, by Sexton for some time, and then by the fallacy around the Byrne brothers that they were going to be the next great thing, because Brian O'Driscoll said on News Talk a couple of years ago Harry Byrne was going to be this absolute superstar, and suddenly everyone was putting all their bets on the Byrne brothers, when to me and to many other people it was always clear that Frawley was the better footballer. and maybe I'm being a little bit disingenuous in saying bureaucracy around it, but I do think that he was probably being held back because the name mightn't have been right, or I don't know, but I think without doubt Frawley is the man now.
But James, we've a new conspiracy theory going to do the rounds now after that statement.
Look, you said about the second row going back row going up to Ulster from Tullamore, like,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You can't keep producing players to go and take positions. It's like any team. If you keep bringing in people, your homegrown talent is going to get peeved off and say, why? Like, every time I come up, I know I work my ass off, and now they're after bringing someone else in. It's very hard to, and it's just, if you have that in a province where there's Leinster players continually coming in because there's just no room for them here. You've homegrown players, and it's not good for parents down, say, in Munster, where they might be playing football or hurling, and say there's no point in continuing on past going into it. You don't have a pathway because there's people coming in and filling in positions.
Lads, I need to bounce. I forgot my flight is boarding in 10 minutes. Good luck.
Go.
Take care, James. Safe flight.
Bye.
I think we all should be. No point in Paddy's already there. I think we have Stephen deserve a break. Get on a plane.
Yeah, that's it. Our turn.
Your halo is still shining bright, Tom, so don't worry.
That's because I'm going away to Rosslare for the weekend, and I can't wait. No rugby is going to be, and not have
Just relax.
Yeah.
That's it. No, you're absolutely right, Tom, though, about the depth and everything. And if Munster aren't firing, and having fellas coming through, like, there's so much promise a couple of years ago with some of these young Munster back rows, Gavin Coombs and everything, and just that hasn't come to pass. And like you said, it's not good for the Irish setup unless Munster are putting it up to Leinster and so on and so forth.
Well, they won't. If their setup isn't right, they're not coming through, and they're not getting a chance to come through. So if you're in a poor setup, you're never going to be looked at properly, or you're never going to get that opportunity to develop as a player. The one thing Leinster have really done have just continually produced, and everyone's got a fair enough opportunity to be looked at, whether it's by Andy Farrell or under 20 setups or under 18 setups. There's a fair chance of being looked at. You're not going to get everyone, because, as I say, if you have 20 lads coming through every year from schools and clubs, and they're all being seeded out, it's very hard if you've this conveyor belt of players trying to figure out who's actually, because it does take a couple of years, especially in some positions, will take a few more years for a player to get mature and develop. And then if this continues, like the Munster and Ulster and those are just going to have to start producing, giving them, they have to be seen, and they have to be in the right setup. And I think Richie Murphy's going to do a brilliant job up there, because he comes from a youth setup. He knows the 20s inside out. He loves looking at young talent, and obviously has an eye for talent as well. So I think Ulster are probably in one of the better positions, to be in from a future development point of view. I think they've definitely got in the right man. So, but look, we'll wait and see. I think there's going to be some cracking matches over that. Be looking forward to the Australian one, and actually really looking forward to the Argentinian one. I'd like to see how Argentina play. They've been playing some lovely rugby, and have had two scalps of New Zealand and South Africa. So there'll be no.
It's not that handy fixture it used to be, Tom.
What?
It's not that handy fixture it used to be.
No, absolutely not. It's a fixture now you actually look forward to. And I think Contaponi has brought in, I was listening to his interview, and he has the Leinster way of you have the basic setup in your systems, but then it's about letting the players play themselves and figure out how to incorporate what you've been taught and do it themselves. He's big into letting the players play, which is a huge thing. So can't wait now. Looking forward to all the games.
So for lads, we'll wrap it up there anyway. Thanks a million for joining us on the Knock On KCLR Sports Weekly Rugby podcast. Enjoy your weekend off this weekend. I know the women's teams are out and the youths and everything as well, but the men are taking a break. Well, Tullow actually is, you were saying there earlier, Paddy, they've got their cup game to look forward to, but that's a new departure, something different as well. So enjoy that, and lads, we'll catch up with you next week.
Very good. See you. Thank you.
Take care, Andy, guys. Good luck.